We present to you this article from a real-life stories site under the title Horror Stories at Sea, the horror story of the mysterious island. Since ancient times, sailors have told many terrifying stories that happened to them during their sea voyages. These stories range from fairy tales to terrifying real-life events that actually happened. These stories include many strange creatures and mysterious sea creatures that some claim live in the depths of the sea. In this story, we will tell you one of the wonders of the stories told by one of the ship's crew who disappeared in the Black Sea. We hope you like the story. Mysterious Island Horror Story. They were talking about the Black Sea as mysterious and terrifying, but I never expected to live such a terrible experience. The ship I was working on disappeared in the Black Sea last night. I was working as a mechanical engineer on the ship, and I was asleep when the wind started to blow so hard. Because of the sound of the storm, I woke up but found no one at deck level. The sea was shaking violently, and there was a terrible sound bouncing off the walls of the ship. There wasn't anything I could do. All I was doing was shouting at the crew, even though I couldn't hear myself due to the high winds. A few hours later, the ship reached the shore of an isolated island. The ship was severely damaged from below and was liable to sink if it sailed without making the necessary repairs. And despite my knowledge of the ship's navigational chart, and make sure that there are no islands in this area, but it was surprising that there was an island, and this island was inhabited. They were looking at us strangely, and their eyes were shining red. There was no semblance of safety in this place. I also noticed that the white sand on the beach had some kind of dirt on it. Poisonous fish, and that the local people used to eat it despite its toxicity and did not suffer any harm. It seems that they gained immunity from the poison of these fish. I and some of those who survived with me from the ship's crew decided not to deal with the local population and take caution from them, as this island is not yet discovered and these people have no connection with the outside world, just as we do not know anything about them. We started making repairs to the ship after counting the damage, and we passed on our presence on the island for 3 days. They passed safely, and then I started. Events are gradually changing. We used to hear strange voices and see silhouettes moving around us. We initially suspected the people of the island and decided to make sure of the matter. I went with my colleagues to explore the island and found an abandoned city in the forest that did not seem to belong to the residents we saw on the beach on the day we arrived on the island, and during our exploration for the village, it was time until it got dark and we started to see the phantoms again around us everywhere. I heard the sound of feet approaching slowly. When I turned to see the source of the sound, I found nothing. There was no person or even an animal in the area around me, but the sound did not stop. And I began to feel something following me in the dark. Terror began to take hold of me, and there was no place to escape to. Suddenly I felt something mysterious appear in me. Darkness was rapidly approaching me. I couldn't move. I was dazed and scared, but when he reached a few steps away from me, he suddenly disappeared. I wasn't sure what had happened, but I was adamant that there was something wrong with this island. I went back to the beach and those who were with me, and we met our colleagues there who were also terrified. They told me that they felt something following them in the woods, and that they saw strange things happening in the night. Everyone was afraid and terrified. We managed to make the necessary repairs to the ship as far as possible and tried to make it seaworthy. But while we were doing the repairs, we noticed that the locals were watching us and giving us strange and unfriendly looks. We realized that something dangerous was going on this island, and we couldn't wait for someone to come and rescue us from here. So we decided to sail the repaired ship as soon as possible, but we found ourselves stranded on the island. And strange things began to happen around us at an increasing speed and pace. We began to hear frightening sounds emanating from the forest, and we felt that we were surrounded from every side. We didn't know what was happening, and everyone was afraid. And suddenly we began to see strange things appear in the water next to the boats. These things were similar to marine creatures, but they were unnatural and terrifying. At this moment, I felt that everything around us was against us, the people of the island and the marine creatures. We could not move, and there was only terrible water between us and the ship. Strange things began to approach us, and began to surround us from all sides. We could see her terrifying red eyes and strange bodies that were moving in an unnatural way. It got so terrifying we had no choice but to scream and scream. Suddenly, we heard a loud and huge sound coming from far away. This sound was like that of a whale and was the only hope for our rescue. Indeed, a huge whale appeared in the waters and began to surround us and protect us from strange things. The whale started attacking the alien creatures and killing them in a horrific way. After a few minutes, the aliens completely disappeared, and we no longer felt the danger. We were then able to reach the ship and sail safely, but the horror we felt will never be forgotten. After returning to the homeland safely, this mysterious island was reported, and a team of scientists was sent to verify what happened there. After a while, I learned that when the scientists arrived at the location we had set for them, they did not find any islands at all. I became terrified of this island. People with red eyes, abandoned villages, shadows, ghosts, strange sounds, fish, strange marine creatures, and in the end, the island itself does not exist. Is it possible that all that I and the crew saw was imagination or dreams? Is it possible for more than one person to dream of the same details and events?